The meeting of the Shreveport City Council is now called to order. Councilman Bradford will give us a prayer, and we will have Councilman Everson to lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
Let us bow our heads. Gracious Father, we come again, thanking you for this day and for another opportunity, Lord, to come before the citizens of this city as we transact the business. We pray, Lord, that you would be a part of this meeting, direct our path, direct us in doing the things that are pleasing and beneficial for this city. We ask that blessings upon the mayor, the administration, the council members, all those who partake in the governance of this city. We thank you. We praise you. It's in your name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, we call the roll, please.
Councilman Bradford.
Here.
Councilman Everson.
Here.
Councilman Jennings.
Present.
Councilman Ford.
Present.
Councilman Stewart.
Present.
Councilwoman Lynch. And Councilman Bowles.
Here.
Okay, tomorrow we'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the Administrative Conference 26. Does any council member have any awards or recognitions or distinguished guests they'd like to recognize at this time?
Mr. Chairman, he's a regular, but I'd like to recognize Attorney John Settle and commend him on his article, Facts Be on-site since corruption here. But I thought it was a very good piece and timely piece, Mr. Settle. Thank you.
All right. Mayor Tyler, you have any awards or recognitions?
Not today, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Anything relative to business, Mayor Tyler? No? Okay. Mr. Green, does anyone have any questions or concerns relative to property standards? Seeing none. Ms. Fields.
Yes, sir.
We have a revenue plan implement tomorrow.
The sales tax report was sent last Monday, and the revenue collection report was sent this morning. This afternoon. So if you all have any questions, just please let us know.
Okay. And Mr. Bradford, sure the phone.
It's circulated this afternoon.
Tomorrow we're required to hold a public hearing.
Good work.
Mr. Thompson, any legislation to add tomorrow?
There's one item. It's authorizing the placement of a sign on city-owned property.
Okay. And we have the following request to speak.
We do. Bill Wiener with his requisite 2 request to speak. Come forward.
Have clarification for the time, 3 minutes each.
I will be happy to plan on just limiting it to 3 minutes for the combined efforts.
Thank you for the clarification.
I have 2. I'm Bill Waiter, number 2 Longleaf Lane, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71106. I have 2 items. I think one we can dispense with in about 10 seconds. It has to do with the Architects and Engineers Selection Committee. We were told that there was going to be a discussion and some changes. Well, I haven't seen the changes, so I can't speak to them. But if it comes up tomorrow, will it be voted on? Do it come in then, or does it come up in 2 weeks?
Okay, I will clarify. There was a little confusion on our end about the amendment.
Okay.
I believe the amendment is on there now. Is it not? It is on there. Now, if there's significant reason to deliberate, and there may be across the council, then we wouldn't vote on it tomorrow. But from a legal standpoint,
okay, I haven't seen it. I'll look at it and get back to you at the proper time.
Perfect. And let me say one other thing. If you have like some significant issues, don't hesitate to email some of the council tonight after you've reviewed it, and then it might be a little more clear to us, what
Okay.
the issue is,
Well,
rather than
assuming
just try to
it'll-
figuring it out tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
I'm assuming it'll be okay.
Okay,
Can we start my 3 minutes now?
if we can start your 3 minutes. I'll give you an extra 27 seconds.
Okay. I'm here to talk about Ordinance 30, the MPC and Parish Commission. I need you to kill this. It's a big step backwards, and it accelerates the death of Shreveport. You might have noticed that Shreveport is dying. There are houses for sale, both high-end and low-end. The question is why? I've had 3 college professors from different schools tell me that as soon as they can find a job in another city, they will leave. I'm going to switch to something that's shorter. Okay. There are 3 things. There are things that can be done to alleviate or help this movement toward the death of Shreveport. And we need to have a discussion, not just somebody presenting and no questions. Consider the economic consequences of not addressing the exodus. Too many houses will go on the market, and panic selling will reduce the price. More people will realize what is happening and attempt to sell and leave. This will result in reduced tax base that will not be sufficient to run the community or pay off our bonds. Ultimate bankruptcy. Next item. It's time to address this now. There's some ways to begin. Please reread my email I sent to you last night. Today, as you discuss the MPC, please keep the parish, city, and expand the boundaries to include the full parish. There are other things that can be done to strengthen the MPC. Reread the email. Stop addressing things as isolated events as they relate to other entities in our futures. We have these boards and committees who are doing their own thing that affect the future of something else, and they're not working together. And the Planning Commission can be the force that brings them together by passing a resolution or ordinance that requires any capital improvement using city funds. If it's over $100,000, then it must be reviewed by the MPC for compliance with future growth and regulations, etc. This will not be a legal document. It is an informational document to the council to help you make a more informed decision. Our community has no vision statement. I brought this up before, and the CAO said they do, and they gave it to me. It is not a vision statement. It's the mayor's 3-year plan for what they're going to do. A vision statement is intergenerational. You're talking about what's going to happen, what you want to happen, and how to get there.
Mr. Weiner, your unfortunate time has expired. Your 3 minutes. Could you summarize?
Yeah, I've just got one or two paragraphs. Okay. Great cities are the result of vision and planning, while others are the result of haste and greed. It would be appropriate for you to ask the question, but your self-imposed rules prohibit this. It's too bad. I mean, I have a degree in planning. I've been active. I've got answers for you. I can give you information. But we can't have this dialogue because of your rules, and that needs to change. Thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Weiner, it was confirmed that Art did send you a copy of the amendment for the A&E committee. So if you don't have it, it's also on the agenda.
I didn't get it because I've been on the phone most of the day with Apple trying to fix the computers. Thank you. Thank you, Art.
Next, Robert. He's here to discuss small cell ordinance, number 333.
I'm Robert Vinay, the AT&T Regional Director for North Louisiana, 3115 D Street, Shreveport, Louisiana. Mr. Chairman, members, Madam Mayor, thank you for the opportunity today to speak about the proposed small cell ordinance. My comments today are offered on behalf of AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, and EcoSite, a very active, industry-wide stakeholder coalition of sorts who have been working with the City Attorney's Office for at least 5 months, some over a year, to arrive at a balanced and optimized policy for small cell deployment in Shreveport that considers both the interest of municipality and industry with reasonable requirements, clearly defined timelines and expectations, and fee schedules that are consistent with other municipalities and governments. So through a series of interactions, meetings, conversations, formal commenting, red lines, and negotiations, as recently as late Friday afternoon, we feel that we are getting close in this matter. So let me repeat that. We feel that we are getting close in this matter. As of today, we've not seen the changes we discussed Friday. However, we're being advised that a revised draft should be issued by tomorrow before the meeting. And we feel that we are nearing a point of having an ordinance that is reasonable and workable. In regards to timing, we're pleased to see a small cell ordinance being introduced, and we're hopeful that a final ordinance will be ready for adoption by the end of the month. We remain willing to work closely with the City Attorney's Office to finalize the ordinance to meet this deadline. As for the 5G safety concerns that were voiced by a concerned citizen, the CTIA, an industry group supporting telecommunication carriers, ISPs, equipment manufacturers, and developers, is preparing a response directly to council members, and that will be forthcoming. I'd like to thank everyone involved, both the city and industry, for their expertise, energy, and resolve to make this happen. Thank you, council members, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. All right. Thank you.
Awesome. This is just more of a procedural question, but when the first draft came up, the Infrastructure Committee had a little review meeting of that. I don't think that we probably feel like that's necessary at this stage, do we? Okay. Just want to make sure, because if we need to schedule something, we have to do it quick. No, I appreciate it.
Okay, may I? Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to ask Attorney Bradford. He and I had a discussion just this morning during right after a staff meeting about the agreement with the, of course, with all the utility companies involved. And he shared with me some of the things that we've done that dealt with the price and all of that. And I thought we had reached an agreement. And we're actually giving up a lot of the funding that was in there initially. Am I wrong about that?
That's correct. I mean, after the latest discussions, we're much more competitive as far as pricing goes for the per node deployment of those small cells. Competitively, we are lower than some of our neighboring cities as it relates to the deployment of those over the longevity of the infrastructure, as well as streamlining the process. We've had some very robust discussions with the industry and made sure that the city, from our position in the City Attorney's Office, is protected from an aesthetics and use position while providing them with a competitive ordinance that allows them to quickly deploy and meet the market demands as far as pricing as well and during deployment as well.
Okay. Thank you.
So to answer more directly as well, once they review the last iteration that goes out tomorrow morning, by this time, 2 weeks from now, it will be polished up, and hopefully they'll all stand and say they're good to go. But we're as close as I think we've ever been.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Bradford, also. There are no items on the consent agenda for introduction. So, Ms. Jones, can you continue the items to be adopted?
Sure. Resolution 47 authorizes Texas Henderson LLC, represented by W.C. Henderson, at 5565 Jefferson Page Road, to make a connection to the City of Shreveport's water and/or sewer system. Resolution 48 authorizing the City of Shreveport, Louisiana, purchasing agent to reject all bids received for 2018 Querbe's Tennis Center renovations rebid, IFB 18-017.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman? In regards to the tennis center renovations over there, will we be sending out, rebidding that, or?
Yes, Ms. Reagan Wood, can you please come? We discussed that one also this morning. We have it appears that the bids keep coming in over each time we've tried to go out, and so we're going to look at taking a different approach. I think we have the same people that are bidding, and we don't have the budget for it. But Mrs. Reagan Wood is going to talk to you just a little bit about some next steps that we'll look at taking.
Okay. We have been out to bid twice with this project, and both times they've come in about the same. Even after the redesign, the first bid came in over, we redesigned. Second bid came in about the same amount. We're not sure that people actually looked at the redesign or if they just resubmitted their same numbers, I'll be quite honest. So we do have to look at what we're going to do. Wednesday morning, 9 o'clock, we have a meeting with the Community Tennis Association here locally. Their president, Mr. Boyd, Corby's Park Foundation, our architect, and we're just going to talk through the project and see. Our mandate is still there. We have to make the building ADA compliant, so we'll look at that first. And then
Is it important that we do that first?
We're under an agreement with the Department of Justice to bring it into compliance. So yes, we have to do that first.
Absolutely.
But we do not have to do it. We've looked at some other options other than, we've got to get people to that second floor and how we do this. That's where the restrooms are located. And right now, that's where you go to pay your fee. We have, since the last bids came in over, we've researched some different options for a lift that stays, not only meets ADA, but also meets building codes. So we're going to talk through that with all the representatives on Wednesday. We're going to talk about whether we just make the bathrooms compliant and leave everything upstairs. It's just a conversation with that community to make sure we're getting the amenities that the tennis players want, but yet still meeting those ADA guidelines.
So I don't need to plan on taking the mayor out there to play tennis between now and December. It's going to be a while.
Well, it'll be a while before the courts were never in the project. That's part of the problem.
Absolutely.
I think there's a lot of people who'd like to see us redoing the courts, but our bond issues language was clear that we had to correct the ADA accessibility, and once we did that, if there was money left over, then we maybe could do courts, lighting, some other amenities. But right now, we've got to address that first, and we're trying to. The conversation is how can we do that the most effective and efficient way.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Okay.
I do want to, you said something that had never heard it stated like this. So specifically on this ADA requirement, we don't necessarily need to provide ADA compliance to access the second floor, right?
No, we do.
We do.
Yes.
So it isn't bathroom related.
Its bathrooms are not ADA compliant, so they have to become compliant. And the access to the second floor right now, all you have is a staircase.
Okay. No. So my question is this. Let's say nothing went on the second floor at all. Then there would be no requirement to make it ADA compliant. It's the fact that we have some activity, albeit bathrooms or sign up. I'm trying to understand what the real driver is. If we put ADA compliant bathrooms in the place where we have the handball, racquetball courts, for instance, just separate deal entirely, and then we gutted the top floor of the building, we would be ADA compliant?
As long as we did not allow any activities on the second floor.
Okay. That's what, so it's the fact, whether we have check-in up there, if we have any activity up there.
Just viewing, even if you went up there just to watch a tennis tournament.
Just to watch.
You have to make equal and accessible access.
Allow somebody with disabilities access to that viewing area. Okay.
Yes. So we'll be doing that Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock if you're interested in joining us.
Thank you so much.
And bring
Unfortunately, I'm out of town, but I would be there.
Or bring your checkbook. We could use that too.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ravenwood. And if I could just piggyback, as we talk with staff, and certainly I can't do all the operations. I have a CAO who does a lot of that, but I try to stay involved since I get blamed and I get the phone calls and the emails and so forth. One of the things that I'm discovering, actually, after 3 years and 4 months, is that a lot of the projects that are expected to be completed were never put into the bond proposal back in 2011. And there is a false expectation about us completing those projects without the money. And then some of the projects that we have that were a part of the 2011 bond proposal today, and even 3 years ago, the cost has gone up so much until we just don't have the funding to do what we could have done back in 2011 or 2012. And so I wanted council members to be very sensitive to that and be able to help us communicate that. Today, we're not able to do with, some of these projects with the funding that was earmarked for that. Now, in this case, this project with the tennis court, renovations were never a part of the bond proposal. And so, there's an expectation or a miscommunication that it was. And so we need to be very clear about that, and then we have to look for other ways to actually do these renovations. Okay, thank you.
You're so right, and it's unfortunate that, here we are. This was passed in 2011, and I remember in 2011 going out to neighborhood meetings all over the city where we were kind of trying to make citizens understand what was going to be on the ballot and what they were going to have in front of them. And it's like you could state it over and over again that these were facilities, that the bonds were for making the facilities ADA compliant. That was stated over and over and over and over again. And you could say it, and 30 seconds later, somebody was like, well, what about this improvement? It just wasn't connecting. And so it does not surprise me that over time, people still don't remember that that's the reason, and there are some ancillary benefits that come along with that.
Absolutely.
You can't upgrade other stuff as you're doing that.
Absolutely.
But not, the handicapped people are able to access the tennis courts. They can't access the bathrooms in the building. That's what they can't access, so.
And if I may, the one thing that it really points out to me, and I'm sure this is going to not make people happy, is that good or bad, the city of Shreveport cannot put that much money to work in a reasonable amount of time because of our capacity. That is a fact. That is a fact. We talked about streets. We talked about SPAR. We can talk about building for fire department. We went out for this bond issue. We collected, 50, 60% of the funds. We struggled to put that 50 to 60 in 2 to 3 years.
3 years.
3 years.
Before I came
and we
in.
went out to second funding request and sold those bonds. And we just don't have the capacity inside in terms of staff. And even when you outsource all this stuff, somebody has to manage it. And I just, when we talk about the ideas of $200 or $300 million of bond projects over a 2 or 3 year period, it's just, unless our size of our staffs grows significantly, I just think it's very difficult for us to expect to do it prudently with figures that are resilient enough to withstand 2011 estimates to flow through in 2018.
Absolutely, absolutely. I appreciate that comment from both of you. It has been a struggle. We've gotten a lot of projects done in the past 3 years and 4 months. But certainly, there are some projects we're struggling with, and I just do need to say that. Even some of the projects that were funded with the bond proposal back in 2011 is not enough monies, and I think this council just, last month, where you had to put add some monies to a project that we didn't have enough monies to really do. And that was one of I think it was a Ninth Street project.
Ninth Street project. And one of a few in my district.
One of the few. Well, and we are really trying to squeeze the dollar, as Councilman Fleury says, and some of our projects we've gotten to come in under the bid. But we have to spend the money from that bond on the projects that we committed to spend the money on. That's number one. And then number two, we find that most of our projects, although they're coming in because we're pushing people to bring them in on budget, but some of them are just over budget, and we've had to go back out and go back out and go back out because the same people are bidding on these projects. But it's really important for us to recognize that some of the other, another issue that I've had is sometimes in the bond proposal, we have said we were going to pay for the design, but we never said we was going to pay for the project. And so we didn't have monies earmarked. And so people didn't hear the part that we didn't pay. We didn't have monies in that bond to pay for the project, but for the design of the project. All of those issues are challenging. And we need to be very clear when we talk with our constituents, as you as council members, and from my desk, I say that to them. But it's important for people to know that we are constantly trying to even overcome some of those challenges, even though the money was never there. So thank you for allowing us to just try to at least clarify.
And really to expand on what Councilman Jenkins said, not only does the city staff who manages these projects have limited resources and staff time available to them, but also our contracting community is not, there's not like, it's not like there's 50 people that do each of these types of specific contracting. We may go out for a project. If the 2 or 3 people in town are already busy doing something, then no one bids on it. It's not like we're Houston where there's 100 companies that do the same kind of thing. So we do have some limitations with how much can happen at once. But I think a lot has been happening, and I think we can all see that all over town. There's a lot going on, but certainly it does take continued communication to help and make sure that those expectations that are in the public and the reality of those people who are making it happen every day don't get lost on each other, because over time it just people's memory and the latest update don't always align.
You got 4 new council members.
Sure. Yeah.
Probably know the whole outs and ins.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Probably played the part in it too.
And that's always going to be true too. I mean, that's one of the things I think we see a lot. And I don't know if y'all, I'm sure y'all get this too. I know I certainly have seen it over the years. Is people refer to the city as if the city is a non-changing entity that is just one person who's always the same. And I'm like, the city has different staff, different leaders, different elected officials, different department heads. There's people in and out all the time. And what somebody knew at one point and what somebody knows now might be 2 different things.
Absolutely.
Anything else, Madam Mayor?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Jones,
All right.
continue on the item to be adopted, please.
Yeah, under Section 9, regular agenda legislation. Section A, resolutions on second reading and final passage, or which require only 1 reading. Resolution 38, authorizing Justin Woodson and Robert Woodson at 9766 Wallace Lake Road to make a connection to the City of Shreveport's water and or sewer system. Resolution 42, authorizing the mayor to accept a donation from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Resolution 43, authorizing the mayor to enter into a donation agreement with Sabine Parish Fire District Number 1, Wards 3 and 4 for 48 used Scott Air Packs and masks and 96 used Scott 1400 PSI cylinders. Resolution 44, authorizing the acceptance of a grant from the National Recreation and Parks Association. Resolution 45, authorizing the use of certain equipment by the North Shreveport Business Association. Resolution 46, authorizing the use of certain equipment by Shreveport Green for the Great American Cleanup. Resolution 49, establishing April 2018 as National Poetry Month in the City of Shreveport. Resolution 50, authorizing the City of Shreveport to proceed with the conversion to a fixed rate of the remaining principal balance of $35,985,000 Louisiana Local Government Environmental Facilities and Community Development Authority revenue for funding bonds for the City of Shreveport Convention Center Hotel Project, Series 2008, making such modifications and/or amendments to the bond documents that are required to effectuate such conversion to a fixed rate. Resolution 51.
I'm going to wait till the end.
Okay.
Okay. 51, finding and determining that a public hearing has been held and that no petition has been filed objecting to the proposed issuance of the City of Shreveport, State of Louisiana, of its water and sewer revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $120 million, authorizing the officials of said city to proceed with the preparation of documents required for the issuance of such bonds. Okay. That concludes that section.
Vice Chair?
I'd like to start with to see if we had a query of where a resident poet of the council is, but I won't go there.
Bring your courage to the speaking place.
So, okay, how much, what is kind of the savings or estimated savings on this Resolution 50? Is it in,
I've asked staff to come up with a number
okay?
that we estimate, and of course, here again, it's an estimate.
Sure. No, I mean, but I'm assuming somebody,
Oh, yeah. We've asked
you're
for
doing that analysis. I was just
You wanna
curious.
come up, one
Yes,
of you,
we've been-
Pam or Alex, or both of you?
Pam and
I-
Alex.
So I'm both eager to get in front of the
Absolutely.
microphone.
We're just trying to get a fixed rate here so we don't.
I get it. I was just curious to know what is, present value savings on this proposal, given whatever you think those rates are.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry I don't have a voice today. Pamela Mobley, your financial advisor with RSI Group. And again, as the mayor had pointed out, there's not going to necessarily be savings in this particular year. What it's allowing us to do is take a fixed rate that's been going up over the last 8 months. It's risen about 80 basis points. And there's expected to be 2 more interest rate environment increases this year. So we're currently at a 214 with going up. And Regions Bank has come back and given us a blended yield for the life of the bonds for a blended yield of 382. So again, no savings this particular year, but we're expecting to starve off the bank bond mode that we will go to if we don't fix it in about 6 months. You recall this is a variable rate bond that you renew every 5 years, and if you don't renew it, they have the right to take you to bank mode, which is 12%.
But this is not on the 5-year schedule, right?
This, your 5th year will end the end of this year, going into 2019. We're just trying to fix it while rates are still low before we wait. Why wait till next year when we don't know what rates will be?
Okay, and then I guess the question is, you can't really do it. I would like to see like some kind of present value of, given our current rate, some kind of estimated variable rate going forward,
Well, I did-
whether it's on a 10 or 20 year coupon.
Yeah.
And then,
I did kind of run that, and it's astronomical because if you look at a 12% versus 382, you're saving, it was over
Yeah.
$3, $4, $5 million a year. But I don't know how realistic that is because hopefully we would do something as a city before we got to 12%. So there's savings if you look at it from a bank bond mode versus a 382.
Your worst case scenario is so worse that
Right.
there's obviously lots of better case scenarios than the
Absolutely.
worst case. But
what
I
about
think you're
doing-
looking for some kind of reasonable expectation
Yeah.
of.
like if you run it at, 4% for 5 years, and the next 5 years at 5%, the next 5 years, or some kind of stair-stepped deal. I mean, not at 12, but something in between the two, just to see how it looks relative to.
And I'm okay with running that. The only caveat I have is that when the last interest rate environment, when we had the rate increase, last FMLC meeting, it went up to 75 basis points. So if we increase another 75, we're looking at almost 3% at that point. And if they're going to give you a blended of 382.
So if you can run some numbers, let's do that. I think,
You want to see it at 8%? Because the 12%, which is what regions can take you to, is about $3 to $4 million a year in savings.
Yeah, no, let's not go to 12. But how about 6% for the, how about a 6, an 8, and a 6 and an 8%?
Okay, so 250 basis points over what regions has given us. Okay.
I mean, I don't know what the prime, I can't forecast the future. I have, but I'd be curious.
Six,
that's
eight,
sort
and
of hard
10.
to. That's why we're interested in doing this. Is the volatility of
It
the
is.
future.
It
It's
is.
sort of hard to pick a number to
Which I was
represent that future. But
Which I thought was very great that they came back at the 382 for the life of it. I mean, you're done.
that's
It's
for the life
fixed.
of the-
That's the life of the loan. You don't come back, you won't see us again with this bond deal. It's fixed. I mean, unless, rates go back down, but I don't see that happening in the near future.
and if I remember that, well, never mind. I remember. Oh, I can reread the terms.
okay.
Councilman Fleury?
Okay, I had regards, I didn't have any questions.
Okay, I'm sorry. Were you finished, Councilman?
No, but Pam, I may send you an email what I kind of.
That's fine.
A little more specific on kind of now that I'm thinking this through.
No
Okay.
problem.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to make you aware that the request to speak is not working. I'm not necessarily concerned with me, but I'm asking for a friend.
Okay.
Mr. Bradford, I'm sure might need it.
Don't. He's been very patient.
Now, Mayor, Mayor, in regards to number
me, Howard.
46,
Councilman Fleury, if I may just interrupt
Sure, go
briefly.
ahead.
And Mr. Jenkins, if you can send that email, I guess we would ask, maybe send it tonight so she can run those numbers for you, because this resolution is on as a one reader for us to sign a term sheet, so I wasn't sure if you knew that.
Okay, no, you may get it in the next 15 or 20 minutes if I interject too much here, okay?
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
I got this machine here in front of me. It's amazing. You can do all kinds of things. I have one thing up over here, do something else at the same time.
Okay.
Mayor, in regards to 46, the Shreveport Green
Yes, sir.
for the Great American Cleaning, that's Saturday, right?
That's this Saturday,
Did
and
you
we're going
have
to
to
make
bring
that.
my trophy that you're going to present out there that day?
Oh, yes, sir. And we're going to make that announcement tomorrow. I told the chairman I didn't have anything today, but I wanted to wait until tomorrow until
Because
we can
folks
get.
at Southern Hills say they're going to get it this year because Cedar Grove kind of clipped our wings in the past. So we got extra tonnage lined up.
All right, all right. Well, let's
By the
just-
way, there's still.
Oh, y'all
Let's
just
bring it.
stockpile. That's not how it works.
By the way, I don't think you can compete still. It's a matter of bringing it in. There's plenty of it in Cedar Grove, right?
I was going to say, let's bring it. Okay.
Bring all we can.
Thank you.
Councilman Bradford?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Who could explain, I'm looking at 43, Resolution 43, in regards to the donation to the Simeon Parish Fire. I understand this, the item that is being donated are surplus, so did they have to go out for, or did they request them, or did they come to, in any type of other, did any other fire departments request these items as well?
And I asked that question this morning. Chief Wolverton, come on up. And of course, you may recall while he's coming that we received a grant, a federal grant that replaced a lot of these. And what we've tried to do, and then I'll ask Chief Wolverton if he'll speak to it, for those people, any municipality that request things that we have that are surplus after we have bought new, and of course, this department has gone and wrote grants and brought in a bunch of new things to make sure that we could have the latest for our fire department. So I asked that question this morning, did we have anybody else to ask for this? You know, last year we had 3 different municipalities asking for surplus police cars, and so we gave those to those people who asked us. And so I think that's what we did this time, but Chief Wolverton, can you speak?
Yes, ma'am. We did receive a assistance firefighter grant that replaced all of our SCBA's, about a $1.4 million grant. Replaced all of our old Scott manufactured self-contained breathing apparatus with MSA. self-contained breathing apparatus. We placed those in service on February the 16th after all the training was complete. All of our Scott SCBAs have been used over 15 years. They're about 4 NFPA standards old. They have been retired for surplus. I did have a fire district that does not have the types of funding resources that Shreveport Fire Department has, and they requested a donation of those packs. Those packs are not serviceable for us at all anymore as relates to our replacements. However, they can be used in a volunteer firefighter setting, and that's what this entity requested, and it really helps them out. They're doing the same things that we do here in the city. Fortunately, we're paid for what we do. Those are volunteers there, and they're just asking for a little bit of help with some equipment to help them save lives also, just like we save lives.
Were there any other requests?
No, ma'am. There has not been any other requests from any other agency asking for any SCBAs. This is the only agency that requested assistance.
Okay, and that was my question.
Yes.
Certainly, we don't want them to sit on the shelf and dry rot, but I was thinking, was there any any volunteer fire departments within our demographics that could have used them as well, but they didn't request them?
No, sir. This is in Sabine Parish, which is a very rural parish compared to Caddo Parish. Is not quite as rural as that parish is, and with their fire board down there, they just don't have the funding and tax base to have the type of equipment that we have here. We're really blessed on Shreveport Fire Department.
But if anybody else had asked us,
oh yes,
we would be dividing these
If anybody
up.
else
That's
had
the
asked us,
question.
we would offer that, but nobody has asked me for any other assistance.
Okay, and that's all I'll ask.
Yes, sir,
about the
that's what you were
process.
asking.
The process
Yes, sir.
on how these are
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
donated. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bradford,
Thank
because
you,
I
ma'am.
did ask that this morning.
Good.
I want to make sure that we try to take care of our own first, cattle, and then, or others. If we have any others, I always tell the staff, let's try to help everybody. We just, we try to do that when we can. But this grant was written and by a fire department, and they were able to bring in $1.4 million competitively to try to replace these. Now, by the way, they did have to do a waiver.
Yes, we have a hold harmless on file with our office.
Right. Make sure that they don't, something happen and they come back on us. So we try to cover all bases.
So let down a used car, huh?
Oh, yes.
As
Okay.
is, no warranty, no title.
Thank you. All right.
Any other questions? You had Art Thompson up to speak. I don't know if that was
I think they were testing the
a test.
requesters.
Ms. Jones, would you proceed with the introduction of the resolution?
Sure. Section B, Introduction of Resolutions. Resolution 52, authorizing the City of Shreveport, State of Louisiana, to hire professionals in connection with the conversion to a fixed rate of the remaining principal balance of $35,985,000 Louisiana Local Government Environmental Facilities and Community Development Authority Revenue Refunding Bonds, Shreveport Convention Center Hotel Project, Series 2008, making such modifications and or amendments to the bond documents and as are required to effectuate such conversion, making any necessary notification to the Louisiana State Bond Commission for approval of related fees.
Any discussion, saying no?
Don't we typically do this before the ordinance? Would the 50 or resolution 50?
It's done in conjunction with.
They're usually at the same time.
Yes. However, the hiring resolution is a two-reader.
Yeah, that's. I guess. I guess I thought we usually introduce it so that we pass them on the same day. Like we usually doesn't matter to me,
Yeah.
as long as everything has been considered and the timing of it is okay.
Yes.
I mean, it's just a semantic question, but.
Ms. Jones, would you proceed with the introduction of orders?
Introduction of ordinances. Ordinance 31, amending the 2018 capital improvement budget. Ordinance 32, a series ordinance pursuant to the 2016 General Revenue Bond Ordinance authorizing the issuance of not exceeding $100 million of water and sewer revenue bonds, Series 2018B, and water and sewer revenue bonds, junior lien, series 2018C of the City of Shreveport, State of Louisiana, establishing certain details of such bonds as required by the 2016 General Revenue Bond Ordinance, approving and confirming the sale of such bonds, pledging the net revenues of the system to secure such bonds, prescribing the form, certain terms, and conditions of said bonds. Ordinance 33, to add new Chapter 105 to the City of Shreveport, Louisiana Code of Ordinances relative to wireless telecommunication facilities, specifically adding Article 1 and Article 2 relative to general provisions and small wireless facilities. Ordinance 34, an ordinance to amend the Metropolitan Planning Commission's fees schedule for the City of Shreveport, Louisiana Unified Development Code relative to fees for wireless telecommunications and facade review.
Any questions, discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Jones, would you proceed with ordinance on second reading and final passage, please?
Ordinance number 9, amending and reenacting certain provisions of Chapter 26, Article 6, Division 3 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Shreveport, Louisiana, relative to architectural and engineering services. Ordinance 27, closing and abandoning portions of Colley Street, Uranus Avenue, and Jupiter Lane in the Manchester Annex subdivision in Section 23, the T18 North, R14 West. Ordinance 28, authorizing and providing for an encroachment on a portion of the McNeil Street right-of-way. Ordinance 29, amending the 2018 budget for the general fund. Ordinance 30, to establish the City of Shreveport Planning, Zoning, and Development Department, Shreveport PZ&D Department, along with the accompanying boards and commissions to assume the duties and responsibilities of the Shreveport Metropolitan Commission of Caddo Parish, its staff, and its ZBA as exercised within the city limits of Shreveport, to authorize and direct the city attorney to prepare the necessary ordinances and other legal documents, and to request the mayor to prepare the necessary organizational chart, budgets, and to hire personnel so that the Shreveport PZ&D Department can begin operating January 1, 2019.
Councilman Evans.
Oh, I just had a question about the McNeil Street right-of-way. The plan is attached, but it's one of those that on a flat screen, it's a little hard for me to see really more the elevation than, like, I get where it is, but I don't get what it'll look like. So if you could just describe it to me.
So you know where it is? It's right near the alley between the YMCA and this building.
Yeah.
And they're putting a new entryway there, but the entryway is a step down. So for ADA compliance, they'll have to have a ramp to it, which will be in the city sidewalk area.
Okay.
So it will be, gradual ramp down to their entrance.
So I saw on there that says it has a wall. Does that wall come up, or that's a wall that goes up to meet the current height as you go down?
I think they're doing some restoration to the existing wall. I think they're having some water intrusion, so they're installing kind of like a foundation drain. Also, and there's going to be a handrail around the ramp.
Yeah.
So it's a handrail.
So that's what I mean. So from the street level, there's going to be like kind of a hip wall or a half wall kind of thing with a handrail on it?
It'll be a rail, yes.
Okay.
And we checked to make sure that the encroachment does not impede the ADA accessibility on the city sidewalk, and it does not.
Okay, great. Just curious, but like I say, it's like it was on a plan, but it's kind of hard to visualize.
Sure.
So I think I get it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
One second. We got Councilman Jenkins up first.
Good. Okay. So, because mine is working. I don't know how everybody else is doing, but my request to speak button seems to be working fine, so I use it.
I'm sorry, that back working now.
They back working.
Okay. I fixed it. Just let me make that clear. I got that fixed. Okay. So, Ordinance 9 does have amendment number 1 up there. If you didn't have it before, you just need to refresh, obviously. And I have not spoken with Councilman Fleury offline about this, honestly, at all. So I'm not sure this is what he had in mind or if he's supportive of it or anything. So I'm not wedded to this moving forward tomorrow, but, I certainly would welcome any input. I personally, I'm sure Councilman Fleury would like some input if you have something to say. So, there's I don't think there's a compelling timing issue is my point, but if somebody's got some significant issues, please feel free to voice them tomorrow or in any other way to convey it. Okay? Because I know it wasn't on there this morning. I get that.
Councilman Brown?
I need one of my colleagues to. Did you receive the letter from Bill Weiner? Did anybody read that? Okay, Jeff, you good, you smart. Tell me what did he mean when he said that this will accelerate the death of Shreveport? Can you categorize that?
Well, I think he can speak for himself, and he's here. But I think what he's saying is that he feels like a strong planning department is necessary for future, for the maintenance of property value and the long-term development of a city, and that he's, I think, concerned that if we were to go down the path of some of the, with the, like taking it in-house, that would maybe compromise the level of independence and professionalism and sort of, am I capturing what you're saying? Is that what your letter is expressing is really more of a importance, he's somebody who takes it very seriously, the planning and the zoning application of those laws be done by an independent body. So I think I'm expressing that accurately. Is that?
Well, simplify it. The MPC should be the big umbrella over everything, and it allows it to look at the future and bring separate things together to see how they work. And you cannot do the job professionally if you keep cutting it back, and it needs its own rules and regulations and funding.
Yes. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. Well, I actually had a feeling what he meant, but I brought that subject up because I had another email. I'm going to speak on this tomorrow, but I'm not going to be redundant. So, but I'm concerned. We keep getting our residents with this gloom and doom of this city, and that's bothering me. Never offering something positive that we can do to improve our city, but telling us every week through emails and through other social media outlets that, what the lady say, as you probably know, people are leaving Shreveport in large numbers, and if we cannot stop this exodus, it would be last one out, turn out the lights. And everybody have their characterization of what's the issues that's causing them to believe and feel that Shreveport is going to become a city that we're not familiar with, that it's not going to be the city that we all love and here to serve. And it keeps on coming. And he has this view. Other people have their view of why these things are happening in Shreveport. And I'm gonna address that tomorrow in a way that coincides with my report with the task force on small and emerging businesses that we held a hearing last Wednesday. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm just taken back on this constant gloom and doom climate and mentality of so many of our people.
Vice Chair?
I'd like to say, You know, the one thing that I did appreciate about the email is there is some focus on solution proposals. And that is what's the most irritating of all, is these people that complain and then don't offer any solutions. I mean, I got the problem. It's very clear that we got some issues in this town. I'm looking, and I think we're all aware. And we need people to offer some solutions rather than just complain.
And some actions.
And then, as Levette Fuller put, we're a strong enough community to clean up after ourselves. We don't need the city to be running around cleaning up after us. And I mean, I need a little bit more of that. I mean, honestly, I go around other communities, so the level of responsibility of investment of the citizens themselves and their own actions. And I'm a little disappointed, frankly, in that here. And the people that offer these criticisms, very little solution-focused responses. And I do have to applaud Bill in this case, because he had some ideas in there. Now, I mean, whether those are great ideas, I'm not debating that. I'm just saying he did focus his on some kind of solution. So, comment that for what it's worth.
And at the Broadmoor meeting last
Week.
what night was that?
Last week, last
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah, and there was some individuals there that were very positive about offering some ideas. And there was one lady, was named Jessica.
Yes.
Jessica was very
Jessica
active.
Elston, I would guess, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm just saying that everybody, you know, like I say, and I said before, is that we don't see things as they are. We see things as we are.
Mm-hmm.
And well, we'll talk about that. But let me just say this, because this is important, because that real Shreveport site again was very offensive to us, and saying we was crooks, we was corrupt, and we was lawbreakers. Now, Mr. Chairman, I'm 66 years old. I don't have much, but what I have, I worked my butt off to get it. I have never been dishonest and crooked in my life. Okay? There's nothing. And you all been on the council for 7 years and 3 months. I've been on the council for 3 years and 3 months. There has not been one accusation. The mayor's been here 3 years. There have not been one allocation of corruption in this administration or from this council.
That's right.
For anybody to categorize us on our action that the people sent us down here to do as corrupt is disingenuous, and it does not warrant any response. But you have to respond, because when he put that trash out there, I'm looking at 100 shares on that website. We cannot continue to be silent when people are being so cruel in their characterization of this council and this administration, when we know it's not true. There has never been any lying, corruption, thievery, law breaking in our turn. And just because we don't agree on the direction that we may be going, we come from diverse districts. And I said before, I think we have done well in our collaboration in trying to do what's best for this city. We don't always agree, but guess what? Me and my wife don't always agree. But we continue to work for the betterment of this city. And I don't know why we keep getting this thrust leveled against us for something that we are not doing, and the motive is continue to shift, in my opinion. But I will not allow, and trust that you will not allow any negative forces to intimidate or keep you from doing the citizens' work. Scare tactics. You won't get reelected. That's crap, and I'm sick of that crap. You know? And we cannot, again, be silent and allowing them a airway to be so harsh on a city government that has done everything it could to move this city forward. And as long as I sit on this council, I'm going to continue to move this city forward. And our collective debates have, I feel, pretty much kept us on a teal that's reflective of the demographics of this city. And Mr. Chairman, I reserve the rest of my time until tomorrow.
I appreciate those comments, Councilman Bradford. And we'll be looking forward for that tomorrow, let me say that. Anyone else? Any other questions? Any other debate? Councilman Jenkins?
Well, I would just say I appreciate that Councilman Bradford. I am sometimes I kind of take things sort of calmly, but then it grows and gets a little frustrating. And there are some things out there that are frustrating when you don't get the opportunity to respond to them all the time, and you see these things continually kind of stated. And one thing I'll say that's kind of surprising as we've been out kind of talking to people about these, tax renewals and answering questions and providing information on it, is that some people just, don't realize that the city of Shreveport has cut their property tax rate, and not just once, not just twice, but people continue to sort of say, oh, why do y'all keep raising my property taxes? And do you know that the last time that the city of Shreveport raised their property tax rate was when I was in high school? I was a junior in high school in 1996, the last time they raised the property tax rate. So we're not talking just a couple. Now, granted, we've done quite a few property tax reductions in recent years under Mayor Tyler, and so we've done quite a few recently. But there have been no increases since 1996. I mean, it's been nothing but decreases. And yet, still, no one in the public seems to realize that we are doing this work required to reduce the property tax rate. Nobody seems to recognize that. It's very surprising. So, it's weird sometimes. You feel like you do a lot of work and you try to listen to the people and do what they say is important to them, and then when you sort of realize that no one even noticed this, it's sort of surprising, But anyway, I hope that that's not always the case. It just seems to be an impression that, you sometimes just realize that people may not be aware of the work that's been done to save the taxpayer money. So maybe we should talk about it more. But anyway, I appreciate that.
So, Mr. Thompson, is there any table legislation to be removed?
Not that I know of, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Green, would you come forward? We have one. Proper standard to appeal to consider, and that's in Councilwoman Lynch's.
Yes.
Okay.
It's behind.
Oh, okay. Case is 5329 Broadway Avenue. The structure has been demolished and the debris has been hauled off. We're asking you to close the case.
So moved that place. Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Bradford and seconded by Councilman Jenkins. Please vote. Passes 6-0. One absent.
Mr. Chairman,
I think the
if I
absentee
may,
would
I
be
want
happy
to
with
thank the council for their commitment and for holding to their commitment to get this cleaned up. I mean, it was, people will do what you expect them to do many times. And if we really, I think, execute and move on certain issues, you can see the results that you will get if you stay the course. So thank you so much for what you all did to help us make this happen.
Yes, ma'am. I passed by there myself, and it actually looks better in person than it did on the picture. So, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Green.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Lynch, I would be happy about that.
She may write us a poem about it.
Or jump on me for not saying Councilwoman. One of the two. No appeals. Mr. Thompson? Are there any reports from Officer Board?
Mr. Chairman, as I said earlier, that task force on small and emergency businesses met on last Wednesday, and we had before us a group called Gateway Development Consortium, and they made a presentation. I'll be prepared to give a report tomorrow. I've asked IT they did record and make copies of that hearing. So if a council member would like to review it, the hearing and their presentation prior to my report tomorrow, it's available with the IT department. So I will give a report on how that hearing I feel went, and any further actions that I think we may take. Thank you.
Any other council member?
I have two. Number one, it has to do with the business in Greenwood that wanted to tap into, I think it was Patrick, you and I talked about it. Is that moving along? Is it a standstill? You can actually send me an email on it if that's easier. It just did occur to me when I saw a couple of these other requests to get on the water and sewer lines where that one was, and I just hadn't heard from the mayor recently. I hadn't seen him, but I usually see him, so I'd like to hear what's going on with it, if it's positive or negative or what. And then this is really for Barbara, and it's not I guess it's really a question. I'm getting a lot of complaints about calling the water department. And in the past, there used to be this issue that it was always busy. Now we have a system that automatic, says yes when somebody, we're experiencing lengthy delays. But I'm getting from a lot of people that those delays are extremely lengthy, and they're not really convinced that necessarily there's really even anybody there that's going through those delays. And I'm saying this, what I'm hearing, because I've heard a lot of this lately. And then the second thing, which maybe we're not disclosing to the public, or I'm assuming we're disclosing to the public, I don't want to say that. But this idea that if you're a significant property owner / you have a lot of rental units, that there's some accommodations for ability to turn on and off water systems as renters move in and out. Are those is there I guess I'll ask that one first. Has there been a procedural change, like not putting locks on rental properties so that people can turn them on and off?
Not that I'm aware of. If we have, we're getting landlords that are working with us to keep the water in their name. Rather, as soon as they move, the renter moves out, it gets moved back into the property owner's, the landlord's name, so that they can actually pay the bill, so the water can stay on. I know that we've been working with a number of folks, because it makes it a little more seamless, because the landlord tends to go in, do some cleanup, and
Sure.
we bill that, and we, get paid for that until the new tenant gets to move back in. But I'm not aware of any differences in how we handle move-outs or, non-payment issues.
Wait, it is
other
not more
than-
of a, it is more of a, as opposed to putting a lock on the meter, that for these people that have, people moving in and
Well,
out, and
typic-
maybe they shut off the meter and they have the discussion with y'all, and then they have a discussion, hey, we got a new tenant in there. Can we either
Not,
turn,
not that I'm aware of. Most of our in the past, most of our locking of meters has been for non-payment. We are looking at doing that for move-outs in areas where we don't tend to get payment. Depending on the account history, we've had a lot of issues with some accounts where, people move in and we're not told that they move in and the water's on. And so if we've had an account where that's happened multiple times, obviously we're going to look at locking that versus an account that we've never had that issue with before. But typically the locks are used for non-payment.
okay? Well, do ask that question if
I
there's a
will.
policy change, okay?
Not that I'm aware of.
And
the other, as far as customer service, we recently hired 5 new CSRs out of 12. So that's obviously a very large portion of our workforce. And we keep a screen up in the admin office at all times so I can see how many calls are on hold, how many agents are online. Mondays, first of the month, we have historically very difficult times, keeping up. Today was one of those days. Every time I walked by the monitor, it was, 20 calls on hold. And, a number of CSRs online. It's not that we're trying to answer those calls. We're trying to do more to push through things to the automated system. We are currently, I believe, in the testing phases of we've went through to document what our typical phone calls are for, and one of those phone calls are people want an extension. They just want to extend their payment for another week. And we have our rules that are set up for how long a person can get, who can, and how long they can get an extension, and it's a very easily calculated thing. We are working to get that set up in our automated system so people can request and receive an extension through the automated system, and that should take a good load off of our CSRs. Phone call wise.
And if I wanted to get water service, let's say I'm a property owner, can I do it via email?
No. We need to call in. There's information that has to be provided to get that water service turned on.
But we couldn't set up a automated template that
We are looking at that. We are looking at particularly, we're looking at a lot of those automated features right now. We're not able to do that, and we have to have a lot of discussions as to with new service. If you own the property versus renting the property, there's information that has to be sent in, to start service. There's a number of different things that we have to make sure that we have legitimate folks and get the proper information so we feel comfortable with the account.
And if I could just piggyback, of course, we get those types of questions frequently. And of course, we even have accounts where people try to set up accounts in their little children's names. And so, there needs to be a lot of discussion before you do something like that. It is, I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that whoever is setting up these accounts are really those people, number one, and that when we start doing that, we're going to be asking for private and privileged information from, those constituents, and that could be compromising. And so I think you'd have to have a lot of discussion before you can go that route. And we do get those questions.
Yeah,
so just want you to know, we're very cautious about, how we handle individuals, SSN and all of that information, because it can become a problem for the municipality to do all that kind of stuff online. So anyway, just want you to know that we are looking. And most people today, and I get certainly a lot of emails And, you know, and I'm getting a lot of stuff on the cell tower stuff right now. There's a campaign against me on that. So, you know, I'm a big girl. I can handle it. But one of the things that we try to do is make sure that we look out for what's best for the citizens and for the city. And in order to do that, I don't ever want us to set up something that's going to compromise somebody's, you know, personal, private information. And when you know, a lot of our younger generation, and of course I'm always about technology and enhancement and being able to do things technologically speaking, but there are some things you cannot replace with a machine, and it's going to take you know, the human touch to be able to do that. So just want you to know that we do look to enhance what we're doing with technology. But there are some things you cannot do without giving up something else.
Okay.
I'm probably preaching to the choir, but I did want to say that.
Thank you.
Ms. Barber, Councilman Corlin has a question.
Thank you, Barbara. Our customer service folks, are they working 8 to 5? Do they have staggered shifts?
They have staggered shifts. We have, I believe it's 4 that come in at 7:30. Others come in at 8. A couple more at 8. A couple more at 8:30 until we get everybody online by 8:30, and we stay until 5:30. So they are staggered shifts. Their lunches are staggered. Their breaks are supposed to be staggered as much as humanly possible. You know, we try to, you know, ensure that people are showing up to work. You know,
What does our automated system or the messages, like at 5:30, does it change and not let somebody be on hold until 7:30?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I believe, and I would have to re-listen to I just went through the messaging because we had some issues with the voicemail box. And so we're looking at changing some messaging, and it's been a little while. Can I get back with you on what that messaging is? I know that we have a message, the message shifts, I believe, at 5 o'clock to start saying something a little bit different. You know, we'll be closing at 5:30 and that sort of thing. And I believe at 5:30 it swaps over as well. But I would like to get back with you, and I can provide the text of those messaging.
And we might even look, I mean, if you think that somebody is, you know, working and they get home and they check their mailbox and they see their water bill and they have a question or something that generates a phone call, you know, maybe 5:30 is not late enough to be staffed. Maybe we need to go another hour or something like that. And I know that involves people and changing schedules, and I completely understand all that. But I think that customer service is one of those areas where, you know, people just immediately get frustrated, and whoever provides the best customer service still doesn't make everybody happy. I understand that. But then, you know, that generates calls to the mayor's office, to us,
Yes.
back to you.
Yes, yes.
So as much as we can do to make sure that we don't create a situation that would frustrate somebody even more than they already are.
Okay.
And my second request is, Councilman Everson and I were talking as we went through the legislation earlier. It seems like quite often we're approving $100 million of water and sewer bonds, or $120 million. Could we get, and there's no rush on this, could we get a list of current water and sewer bond debt, and then how much of that is associated with consent decree? Because I know for those of us on our second term, we kind of had a number in our mind of what the consent decree was going to cost. And I haven't gone through the agendas and added up all this stuff, but, you know, in my mind, doing easy math, I'm thinking, that's a lot of bonds. So if you could get this kind of a rundown for us on that, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And with Councilman Corbin, I too had those same questions, very similar this morning. And you know, I think we have mentioned, and Barbara, you can see, you know, one of the things that we've tried to share with our council members and with the public is, you know, when there was a projection back in 2013, I believe, when we first started dealing with the consent decree work, is there was a prediction, or I guess just an estimate of what it would cost us to actually address the sewer system that was required, the required maintenance or replacement. You know, a lot of those figures are no longer good today. You know, it's hard to even get contractors now to when we go out with projects, to come in under budget. And so what was projected in 2013 is probably not accurate today. Even though we have come up with trenchless technology, which we hope will save us some money. And that's kind of what we have figured out. It should save us some money, a lot of money, actually. However, we still have to deal with those areas where we can't use trenchless technology. And so the cost, we're hoping we can meet that projection. Not sure if we can, but I too am concerned about, you know, all of the bonding that we're having to do, and even borrowing money through DEQ to make these things happen. And we're having to do that and do that and do that. And we have these timelines and milestones that we have to meet, and without the money, we can't meet them. And so what I've said to the publics, and I'll say it again, what we don't have to do is what happened in 2013, is that we pay out $650,000 in penalties instead of using that fund, using those funds to actually fix the sewer system. When I went to meet with a secretary of DEQ, LDEQ, and he said to me, a year and a half ago or so, when I went down to talk to him about, you know, borrowing money with a rate less than 1%, he made it clear to us that, you know, they were going to work with us, but that in 2013 we paid $654,000 in penalties because of our sewer system. And that was money that we just almost like gave to EPA. And we have to meet we have to meet the milestones. We don't have a choice, or we get to pay more money.
And that was a vastly reduced penalty
Yes.
for the initial penalty.
Yes.
I mean, but you're right. That's what we basically traded off a lower penalty for being more aggressive and
Yes.
trying to
Yes.
fix the problem.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
And I concur with what everybody's saying. It's probably a good time just for us to get a catch-up
Yes.
mental.
Yes.
Like, it's just hard to sort of do the mental math after a while. But I will say that just in infrastructure committee, when we've kind of looked at this a little closer and had a chance to talk about it a little more, I mean, it does seem like, now we haven't recently, because our recent meetings have been more about some other things that have come up. But in last year, you know, we did kind of get a chance to talk about this a little bit. And I mean, it does appear like the first round, phase one construction was a lot higher than estimated.
Mm-hmm.
But during the course of that, they were continually learning better ways about what was costing more and what was being more cost effective.
Yes.
And so they were making those changes as phase one construction went on. So now in the phase two bids that I see, you know, and there's the map online that kind of shows you where that work is going to be, and it touches quite a few city council districts if you haven't looked at that. It looks like it's clear where we can use some of the cost-saving stuff, and then there's other areas where maybe we won't be able to. But,
right. That's right.
But it's clear that they're adapting and trying new things, and that, for one, I can appreciate.
Absolutely.
But it would be good to kind of get just a current tally, you know, just
I'd
an
love
update.
to see that too, and I've talked with Barbara about it. I've not asked for that figure, but I'm glad you did, because I too would like to make sure that as your mayor that I'm keeping up with that. And what I also discovered was that some of the work we're doing is not just consent decree work.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we've got some water system issues that we're having to address also, and we're having to do that because of the Clean Water Act and because of, you know, we've got some issues
Well,
that
while
we
you got
have
it
to
torn up,
address.
you might as well fix the other thing that's
Absolutely,
breaking.
absolutely. So, you know, some of the money that we're collecting
Yeah.
have to go toward
Yeah.
some of these other, has to go toward some of these other water issues that we're dealing with. But it would be a good idea to do a breakout there. And I can tell you, last year we spent probably $108 million just on consent decree work alone. And so about 148 or something like that in 1 year, just on water and sewer, issues that we were facing in our city. But it's one of those things that's very challenging to us. And I say to our citizens all the time, there are some things that we must do. We don't have a choice about the sewer system. We got to do that, or we get to pay more and more penalties. And there are other things that we can do something about, but we got to be willing to invest in our community and our city. And you have those people who don't want to invest, and if you check any other city our size and larger, they invest to make things happen. I mean, you can't keep fighting, paying for basic services and then expect to have better services. The two don't match. Thank you for allowing me to say that.
And I think the concern that all of us have is when we approved the painful increases back on the last council.
Right.
We did that with a certain number in mind that those increases would support.
Absolutely.
And if we're not on track with that, I'd like to know that sooner than later. I mean,
yes.
Still may be a different group up here that would have to deal with that, but
yes.
But it would be good to know. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bradford?
Yeah, this is additional comments.
Emails for you. If you have any other emails that you want to share with us.
No, I have any emails. We'll do that tomorrow. But I do have two concerns, Mayor, that I would need administrative response. But before I do that, let me thank a couple of people. Let me thank Mr. Thompson, our clerk, first. And then I want to thank the administration, the Shreveport Fire Department, Chief Wilberton, Chief Jones. There was an incident 2 weeks ago. Canaan Towers Apartments. It's 300 units. It is an apartment complex that's for elderly and those that are disabled.
Mm-hmm.
Both of their elevators went out.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody contacted nobody. A resident called me and said, I'm up on the 8th floor. I'm in a wheelchair and I can't get out.
Mm-hmm.
I called Mr. Thompson and he contacted the chief and the ball started rolling. Now this is the part I want to congratulate and thank them for. While I knew that they would have responded to a 911 call,
mm-hmm.
but it was so much better for Chief Jones to have gone out to that site and to evaluate the situation and to establish a contingency plan in case of emergency.
Mm-hmm.
He stayed on site for a long time, evaluating what ifs. Thankful that there was nobody else, but I told the apartment manager that she was, I thought, somewhat negligent and that she did not be proactive in notifying the city, the fire department, of such a situation when it could have turned tragedy. If smoke or some other emergency would have erupted at that building, it would have created chaos. But I think the fire department are being proactive. And now they have set an agenda on follow-up as it relates to having in-services with those residents on escape plans. Getting with the management to look at having fire drills. All those things was important, and I want to thank them. And they stayed engaged with that situation until those elevators was fixed, and they was out for over 24 hours. So they was on standby, had notified the necessary resources to be ready in case of emergency, and that's the type of response that I really appreciate, Mayor.
Thank you. If I could just say one thing, and by the way, those didn't belong to the city. I don't want anybody to get that out.
No, they were private.
That's private. But our folks were given the direction or the directive to make sure that those people were okay, and that they would work with management to resolve the situation and to stay there, and they did that. And I want to commend them also for a job well done. And we're trying to say and we'll try to do more education to, these private owners, because we're not in charge of these buildings. They don't belong to us, many of them do not. But we are responsible to citizens to try to make sure that they're safe. Thank you for allowing me to say that.
Thank you. And thank you for dispatching the necessary resources to
Yes.
be prepared to address
Absolutely.
that. And then I want to thank Ms. Bonnie Moore and the City Attorney Bradford for meeting with the owners of the Maple Street Bistro in their quest to move forward with their project. There was some issues that need to have been resolved and talked about. Over the last few months, there has been a lack of communication, and their project had not moved forward. But I think at the meeting on Friday, we have established a plan of action that I feel that everybody agreed when we left there that we can move forward. But I told those owners that everybody has to be accountable. That Ms. Moore, her department could not release public funds without the proper documentation and the proper accountability. And but I think the input of the city attorney was so helpful in moving forward, and I think there was some modifications that I thought was accepted by the city attorney, and hopefully that would move forward. There was an issue regarding collateral, but I think that's going to move forward. City attorney, you see no issue with that not moving forward? There's been something already. Oh Lord, okay. All right. It ain't been 48 hours. Okay, but I'll speak to you about that.
I'm waiting on some more documentation, but
okay.
There may be an issue.
Well, I withdraw my thank you for that.
Well, you need to still thank my staff.
No,
they're still doing what they're supposed to do. We're just gonna got to look out for the city first.
No, I was just being facetious.
Don't withdraw your thank yous, because they worked hard trying to get this thing, the goal line.
No, they did well. And before I get to the item of regarding the ditches in the okay, let me also. The city attorney contacted me, Mr. Settle, and said that a joint executive meeting between the Parish Commission and the City Council cannot exist.
Not an executive session.
Not an executive session. That's what I meant. He said, only if there was a personnel matter. Since we don't control the personnel of the MPC, we can't meet. But we will, hopefully, at our joint meeting on Friday, talk about how we can, those two bodies can get together to even discuss that. I think it's important that we do discuss that. And my only reason for being in executive session is that sometimes, somebody may want to cuss. We want that to be in public.
You're not stopping here. You were on the mic already today, so it's obviously not a limitation.
I didn't cuss.
You're so worried about it.
And the last thing I want to do is say that in regards to the tax election on the 28th,
yes, sir.
The letter that has been drafted by the clerk and all of us have approved and signed. It's just a matter of how we would distribute it and get it into the public forum. Mayor, I'm intending to use some of my campaign funds to do radio. Okay, and we talked about some possibilities of options of us personally getting involved in promoting this election, renewal election. So being open, whatever you feel that you can do as a person to help promote it.
Yes.
I know I would appreciate it, the mayor will too.
Yes.
It's just that important because I think the enemy, and I'm going to use that word for a better word, would love to see this fail so that they can take some joy in this failure. But if we work hard, work together, I think we can achieve our goal in passing all 6 proposals.
Sounds good.
The clerk has some ideas as well. He didn't. This was not done on government time or stationary or resources. So we clear there, and how we would get it out into the public forum, I think, is another option that we're going to look at. And then finally, Mayor, we communicated through email regarding the ditches, the drainage ditches. Okay. It's been over, we did that last week, but it's been over a month since I first made an inquiry about having those done. I don't see the delay as some has projected it as being issues regarding lines and so forth that need to be surveyed. All I see that needs to be done is somebody go out there with a shovel and unclog some pipes. So, can Mr. Woods ask?
Yeah, Mr. Woods is here. Can you come to the mic? I have followed up after you and I communicated last week. I just want you to know that. Some of it did have to do with digging in those ditches, and others, we've had several downpours of various storms, and that's kind of delayed us some. But let me tell you, I always try to work with a sense of urgency for everybody, and we have that all across town. But I've asked Mr. Wood and his department to make this one a priority, since you asked for it about a month ago, I guess. And, they gave me some explanation, but we're still pushing to get it done. And so, Mr. Wood, can you just speak to it briefly? But we're going to move on. Okay?
Yeah, let me speak to just getting somebody in there with a shovel. Truth of it is, I can't even do that unless they're marked.
Have you went up and inspected those?
Yeah, I've looked at some of them, not all of them.
Will you agree that when in front of person's houses that the drainages are clogged with just dirt?
Some are, yes, sir. And we will get those out. But like I said, we need to clean the ditches so that we don't have to go back in 3 or 4 weeks. We need to clean the ditches so that they'll be that way for a while. And that's going to take a backhoe.
Well, okay, I'm gonna agree with you that there are some that I think are backhoe required.
Right.
Okay. See, the problem we have, and I showed you guys a video of the incidents that the residents attacked. Well, complained to me about those things. Okay. Now, see, the problem we have in America gets feedback, some very negative feedback at times of timeliness of getting things done.
Right.
The issue that we face as council members is that our constituents think that we can dispatch a city worker out to their location and address their problem.
Right.
They don't understand that's not our
when
job.
you share with them that you do not have administrative authority, they just think you're. Don't tell me you're just trying to pass the buck or whatever.
They think we're just trying to get out of doing their bidding because we can't. So it's a reflection on us at times when we feel simple responses.
I understand that. I just want you to know, and I've always promised the mayor, we will do everything we can do to get these problems solved. And sometimes I can't do it in 3 weeks, or sometimes it takes me more than that. But we'll get up there, we'll get the ditches cleaned out and do what we need to do.
And I appreciate that. And,
okay.
And I said to them, because I asked them, how long you been living up here? I say 50 years. I say, what I'm seeing is not a 3-year problem. This is a chronic
long-term problem.
Neglect of doing work. And,
right.
and I said, and I don't know if it could be done immediately, but I think to correct the very deplorable conditions of some areas of the Cook Road is going to require something bigger than annual budget.
Absolutely.
And I said, there should have been a stipulation when they agreed to get annexed that they say we should have done this, we should have done that, they should have done
Absolutely.
that.
It would help me.
If not, they should have went. They should have went in cooperation. But anyway, it's on us, and I appreciate what you can do.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And we are going to address that. I did say to staff, you know, because somebody came in from out of town, you and I kind of talked a little bit and decided to push the button.
That's what happened.
A button that's been, you know, out there for the past 25, 30 years. We are going to get to it as quickly as we can, but we don't want to endanger any lives. If we go out there and hit the wrong line and somebody get blown up, then we're culpable, you know. And so I did tell staff to let's make sure that we don't do that, because then those folk will not take any responsibility. So if we go out there and hit a line and it you know, burns up somebody's house and lives are lost, then that's another liability that nobody will take but us. But I am asking them to move as quickly as possible, and I'll find out exactly what we got to do to make that happen.
Thank you, Mayor. And I understand you have to move with caution.
Yes, sir.
That's reasonable.
Yes, sir.
But again, I saw some situations where I thought maybe just a shovel and a pick would get some of that done.
Okay. All right.
And my next and last concern is regarding the two centers, Lakeside Park and Billsbury Park.
Mm-hmm.
I was under understanding that Lakeside would be reopening sometime this spring, but I went out there and it's gutted. Ain't nothing in there. So what's the condition? What's the status of Lakeside?
I'm going to ask Mr. Ragelwood to come up, and then we're going to be groundbreaking this week, and I'll announce this tomorrow for Billberry. But let me ask Mr. Ragelwood to come up and talk about, you know, we've been trying to get to all these centers, and we've done several in your district, by the way.
And I'm aware.
You're aware, and you know, even one was not even on the books, and we had to push and get private donations to get that one done. But we're going to get to it.
Like I said, once we began demolition, we found some unexpected environmental issues there. We had to do that cleanup, which delayed us about 3 months probably on construction. And he should be finished sometime late June, early July, and then we'll have to go in there like we've had to do with a lot of projects and do some of the finishing touches. And we should be open there by the time school starts, so our after-school program can go back there. As the mayor said, Billberry's will do a groundbreaking on Wednesday.
This week.
Well, so tell me, and I appreciate at least you filled in the potholes.
Yes, and I did talk to a couple people last week who had contacted us about timelines for for Lakeside.
So where are the programs for Billberry? Where are they going to be replaced at?
Billberry is going. I tell you what. Let me bring you a list tomorrow. I don't want to because our seniors go. We'll be transporting seniors as well as our after school and summer programs. So I want to make sure I give you all the right. Because it's a moving, with all these centers being closed, we've had to, I'll bring you a list of where everybody transfers to.
Okay, thank you. And if I could just piggyback, thank you. You know, one of the things, and it's kind of a good problem, but it's not so good. We've done so many renovations over the past 3 years until people now expect them all to be done. And I'm asking folks to give us time. You know, they attend these other ribbon cuttings, and then the questions I get, and I got it from the last two, is when are you going to get to us? Well, you know, we have to get to people. You know, we just can't do them all at one time. We don't have the contractors to do them all at one time, and we don't have the resources to do them all at one time. So if they'll just hang in there, we're going to get to their center. But we've done, just this last year alone, about $10 million in renovations of various community centers. And they look good, but we want to make sure that we've done it properly, and we're doing it. We're getting it done, trust me. And I can give you a list of all the ones that we've done. You know, when we find environmental issues and when we have things to come up that may cause a delay, we just don't communicate as well with the citizens in that area, and we need to do a better job of that. Thank you, sir.
I appreciate it. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Thompson, the smile on your face, I know what that is.
No, I wanted to follow up on something that Mr. Bradford mentioned, the letter encouraging the citizens to vote for the bond propositions. I wanted to explain something. Earlier, Mr. Fleury had asked us to draft a resolution for the council to consider, requesting the citizens to favorably consider the propositions. After consultation with the city attorney, it was decided that we probably shouldn't do that because we didn't want to use any city funds or resources to do it, to either draft the resolution or to draft the minutes or to publish the resolution in the paper or anything like that. So the letter was drafted out of City Hall. Public paper was not used to put the letter on. Any publication of it will be done with private funds. So absolutely no city funds or resources will be used and have been used in that regard. If anybody wants a copy of it, we'll get a copy done and give it to you, but that will be paid for with private funds also.
They can meet me at Kroger's and I'll make them a copy on their.
Just to ensure, I brought my own pin
Absolutely.
into the chamber today to ensure there was no confusion that I didn't even use a city pin, ink, to sign the document. So, appreciate everybody being right on top.
Thank you. And if I may, I'd like to, and I'm talking more today than I've talked in 3 years, but I do need to say that, we're pushing to try to provide basic services and continue to provide those and even do a better job of providing those to our citizens. Now, we're going to be talking a little bit tomorrow doing the announcement about things that we're going to be doing and that other groups that we've gotten other groups to do to help us in this endeavor. And so, there is nothing that's going to prohibit council members from going with us, going on your own to some of these community meetings that we go to, and you can say vote yes. That's not using, city money. That's using your voice as an elected official. And so I do want to say thank you to those that have been showing up at some of our community meetings, and we've done a lot of those, and we've got a lot more to go. But as you know, next weekend, the 14th, is early voting. And we need to be very aggressive this week, trying to make sure that people understand the importance of these and supporting these renewals or continuations. There is a lot of propaganda and misinformation, and we've tried to include in our presentation just education about what these renewals and continuations do and what the law says. And we actually quote the law on the things that we're doing to try to dispel some of the misinformation and miscommunication, and some of it is deliberate, I believe. And I'm praying for those folks who would deliberately try to destroy the city. But I do ask you all to use your voices. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tom will say that's it, and if that's it, then there's nothing else, and this meeting is adjourned.